Hello, everyone around the world. Thank you for joining this next webcast in this urgent and timely series by the Corpus Board. Today we have a particularly timely session where we're going to go and give you some thoughts, insights, and perspective around how to get out of this crisis that we're living in today. And of course, the word that comes to mind when you think about how to get out is we all need to innovate. And that was important before in our VUCA world that we lived before COVID. And of course now, as I always say, we live in a VUCA world on steroids. Innovation is the absolute key. And we're going to give you some real handles to help you get through this time and out of this time. So Derek, if you move to the next slide, before we get into the specific matters and I introduce the speakers to you, just a few housekeeping rules as always. Please ask questions. We want to make this a conversation more than a presentation. Presentation is only there to stir the conversation. So don't hold back, ask your questions, and you can do that in the chat box below, and I'll be weaving those questions in the conversation. Maybe not immediately, but I'll try to get to all of your questions and see where they fit best, okay? Download presentation. If you like what you're seeing, you may download it, but unfortunately not yet today. We're going to have that available at our website from tomorrow. So you'll need to come back and have another look tomorrow. You can go and move full screen or not full screen. You can toggle with the arrows that you have somewhere in your system, depending on what system you have. And then if you like what you're seeing today, please don't hold back and share it with your colleagues. This is a complimentary webcast, so we would urge you to share as broadly as you possibly can, maybe even on social media, so that helps the conference board in the process as well. Thank you. Oh, and then at the end of it, the session will be asking you for 2 minutes of your feedback. Please take the time and don't hook off too early. Next slide, Derek. Credits, yes, the insights are so significant that you can earn CPE and CPD credits for American and European colleagues. You got to stay online for the entire webcast. You can only get those credits in this session, in the live session, not when you look at the webcast or the webcast on demand. So it will be only for the privileged few that are now listening. Type your full name, email address, and I'm not yet done, Derek. Can you go back? You got to just make sure people know what they need to do. Type your full name, email address, and specify CP or CPD in the space provided, and then watch those 3 pop-ups. Don't miss them because then you miss the credit. So pay attention throughout the whole session. And now, indeed, this is the time where it's my honor to introduce our panelists. And so Arthur Liberian, Senior Sales Director of Planbox. Planbox is an organization, a consultant organization that I've worked with in the past. I had Ludwig Malik, who is the CEO of Planbox, in an earlier session. They have some really great practices, principles, and tools that Arthur is going to introduce throughout the session. And he is going to introduce Paul Flatter, who is the innovation manager at Hollister Incorporated, who has lived some of those principles with quite some success. So I'm looking forward to their story. Arthur, if you could just say hi. Hello.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure being here and looking forward to our presentation and our discussion here today. Thank you very much.
Excellent. And Paul?
Morning, everybody. Glad you could join us today. I'm excited to be here.
Thanks for joining us, taking time out of your very busy schedule, I'm sure, right, Paul, living through the crisis. And by the way, that's me, but you're not here for me anyway, so let's move on. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Arthur and take us away. Arthur, please. Thank you again.
Excellent. Thank you very much, John. So I thought it'd be important for us to give you a good presentation here today of some practical examples of how our customers have been able to leverage our product and deliver some amazing results throughout this pandemic and actually achieve some new product opportunities as well. So let me just give everyone a quick overview of an interesting story that I came across that's quite fitting with what we're going through here today. So in 1914, there was a great explorer by the name of Ernest Shackleton, who had already made a name for himself as an explorer going through one of the southernmost parts of the world. And what he wanted to do in 1914 is basically cross the entire Antarctic and explore the entire continent. Unfortunately, as it began sales entering the Antarctic waters, his ship was basically icebound. So what unfortunately ended up happening is that his entire crew had to live on the ship for an entire 2-year time frame. Totally unexpected. So if we take a look back at how 2019 ended with the success, the great growth we had in the economy, and many things going all in the right direction for many businesses, along with the innovation process, and where we are today with a totally unexpected situation, a lockdown. We're looking at GDP rates that are falling at roughly 30 to 40%. And of course, many companies going through major bankruptcies and a shift in their business model. So unfortunately, the crew stayed stuck for 2 years and basically had to abandon ship and use small sailboats to get back to South America and basically end that trip unsuccessfully. But they learned a great deal and they were able to conquer that at another journey. So this is quite timely based on what we're experiencing right now and why so many companies today are now innovating at a far faster rate. So one of the things that we've come across in the landscape of innovation is that corporate life expectancy has actually been shrinking. Since the late 1960s, we've realized that corporate life expectancy has decreased by an amount of about 300%. And that number is actually accelerating at an even faster rate. So they say by 2025, the corporate life expectancy of a Fortune 500 will be roughly 14 years. And what we've experienced for the last 3 months, unfortunately, may actually accelerate that. On the bright side, human life expectancy is actually increased by about 30%, and that's due to innovation. So many companies have embraced innovation, and now it's more important than ever to actually adopt these innovative principles and launch a strategic innovation program within an organization. I just want to take a quick look at some of the challenging times we've experienced over the last 2 decades and what opportunities that has created. And of course, Planbox has been around for roughly 20 years. So we've actually experienced a lot of ups and downs, the booms and busts of many business cycles. And one of the things that we've seen is that more startups have launched and propelled to become leaders in any of the industries that they've basically launched in. So that's an opportunity. It means that businesses need to be aware of what are the changing habits, the consumers' demands and needs during these changing dynamics and times. Second, opportunities for companies to introduce net new services are much larger than ever before. We just have to take a different look, a different approach, identify things through different lenses, and be able to execute, much like the example that Paul will go through here today with what he's been able to accomplish at Hollister Incorporated by being lean and agile. And of course, this is an ideal time to actually drive company-wide innovation programs. It's important to collect the voice, the feedback from your team members' experiences and how they're interacting with their customers. They are basically so close to the pulse of the customer that they have the ability to actually deliver on some amazing opportunities. So one of the things that we can also define here is that many of the innovators can actually apply critical skills throughout these difficult times. So we've noticed that innovators are creative. They're also very good at problem solving in a collaborative fashion. Leveraging tools like Planbox ultimately allow you to solve many different problems by bringing in the voice of these employees and making sure that they can tackle these problems with the frameworks. One of the things that we've also come across is that innovators have some great framework and tools at their disposal that they can leverage. We also know that these innovators do a great job of identifying the right people to solve those problems. And one of the things that we've also noticed is that innovators tend to listen to customers and understand how they can deliver on those needs as well. So this is something that we've seen time and time again. and adds considerable value to the innovation process. So I want to give a quick overview of Planbox and the work that we've been able to accomplish over the last 25 years that we've been in the innovation space. We have great domain expertise of experts who have delivered some tremendous value for our customers' innovation program. We've completed over 400 enterprise deployments, which means we've delivered some amazing results for our customers. We've most importantly learned from our customers, and of course, we've helped them realize about 1,000% ROI through the use of our platform and some of the strategic guidance that we've provided our customers. Now, Planbox acts as a system of record for innovation. It's a single source of truth within these organizations around managing all of their innovation activities. And what we've essentially been able to do is help companies plan, manage, track, and measure the outcomes of their innovation programs. So it's all about understanding who is your ecosystem of innovators, how you can leverage them, and uncover problems that need immediate solutions, collaborating on those solutions to develop them further, and then being able to prioritize the ones that are going to help yield the best results and going ahead and commercializing them. That's been the premise of our platform and the solution that we've been offering our customers. Now, given the fact that we are going through this pandemic and we're about 3 months into it, I wanted to share a couple of examples of how some of our customers have been able to achieve our platform and deliver some tremendous results in a short period of time. Now, this goes to show the ingenuity and the capabilities that the innovators inside these companies have to deliver and execute even in times of dire constraints, in times of difficult and many different challenges based on remote workforce, based on limited funds, and budgets being slashed to maintain the overall operating standards of an organization. So we've been able to see that ExxonMobil has been developing some continuity plans using our platform. We've seen Chick-fil-A really get close and understand the needs of their customers and try to deliver new, unique ways to provide them with experiences, whether it's delivery or being able to pick up the products, the food at the stores that they operate from, or being able to imminently plan based on the different regions like Sodexo operates in to basically mitigate risks. They were able to foresee some of the challenges based on some of the facilities and services that they operate in China, in Japan, and be able to bring those learnings to different parts of the world that were experiencing the COVID impact before it can happen. So that's a huge advantage in terms of being able to share those insights and be timely in the process of delivering the right mitigation plans. So one thing I wanted to cover here today as well is the collaboration continuum. So much like every large organization, they have best of breed solutions around their communication process. So that could be your SharePoint sites, that could be Google for Work, and how you manage departmental communication based on being able to share documents, being able to share information, and any important data that may be relevant to those groups working on specific projects. Then we look at what happens in terms of the daily collaboration and communication with organizations. And you could see that organizations typically leverage tools like Microsoft Teams or Slack or Yammer in order to quickly share feedback and work on certain things. And now Planbox really comes into the business to build a center of excellence for innovation. This is where we take that collaboration and actually have meaningful, purposeful, and focused conversations around how we can come to an optimal solution and an execution plan to really help generate value to what we're trying to solve. And that's essentially what we've been helping our customers establish. One thing that'll be quite clear is the ability to actually manage your innovation ecosystem. And I think Paul's story will be a great eye-opener and insight on how you can leverage a community of experts and collaborate with other organizations to deliver some great results, even in challenging times. So one of the things that we like to do is understand how to build a community, how to tap into that community, and how to be able to best leverage that community based on the information and insights you can establish from them. So if we look at the circle of influence and contribution in any innovation program, you'll notice that you can tap into government resources. You can look at academia, where you can find the right individuals to help you find publications and provide you with context around different research projects. And of course, tap into the network of startups that can actually provide you with great solutions that can help build on what you're trying to accomplish. And then, of course, capture insights from your employees and your customers as well to deliver some great results. So I think with that, we'll pass the floor to Paul, who will actually get deep and granular with what they were able to accomplish at Hollister Incorporated and deliver some great value to the communities that needed help and some of the customers that needed some medical solutions during this challenging time.
As you move to Paul, let me remind everyone to not hold back on questions, please. We don't have any yet, so go for it. Paul, please. Look forward to hear how you bring this to life.
All right. Thanks, John. Good day, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Thank you to the conference board for having such a timely and necessary event like this. And I appreciate the opportunity to come and share a little bit about our innovation journey at Hollister, which I've been a part for about a decade now. So I'm going to take a little time to tell you a little bit about our company, the innovation program that we built up, and how we scale it to be inclusive and sustainable, and leave you with a real-world impact of how we delivered on the COVID-19 challenge. So first to start, Hollister Incorporated is an independent, employee-owned company that develops, manufactures, and markets healthcare products, educational materials, and services worldwide. We dedicate ourselves to being a company that looks outward to the needs of healthcare professionals, the people that they serve, and our customers. This dedication is based on our mission to make life more rewarding and dignified for those people who use our products and services. It's our culture that guides us in the decisions we make, the ways we interact with each other, and the way that we serve our customers. And so by working closely with each other and listening to our customers, we gain a better understanding of the needs that they have and how we can best satisfy them. Hollister's been serving healthcare professionals and patients for almost 100 years now. In fact, next year we'll be celebrating our centennial. Our corporate headquarters is in Libertyville, Illinois, in the United States, which is where I'm based out of. Haven't been there in a little while because of this pandemic. But the company started in Chicago in 1921, and Hollister has thrived and grown since its inception. You know, in the early 60s, Hollister was a printing company and had some other endeavors that it was interested in. In the 60s happened, there was an employee who had a family who had an ostomy, a family member who had an ostomy, and he came to the CEO, John Schneider, and asked to see if there's a better way that they could serve ostomy supplies. And that's what changed our course of action to be the market leader that we're now in ostomy. It's the subsequent years, Hollister continued to expand. The long, successful past that it had been privy to, the global expansion, the acquisitions along the way, those are the things that typically create barriers to innovation. The set in your way pathways that stick around stigial. The distributed workforces that we've gotten in pockets around the globe, they resort to familiar communication patterns within their silos. So this is really a story about how an independent, employee-owned company who's steeped in culture and history set forth to create a robust and flexible framework that drives the corporate innovation in a repeatable way. As we built our innovation program, we really found out it was about connecting our global community of innovators so that we could realize their potential. Hollister prides itself on having quality people, quality services, and quality products. But we wanted to tap into that quality people and see if we could unleash that brain power. There's two parts to doing innovation. And we'd like to promote doing innovation on purpose. There's the being and the doing. Now, the being is really the piece on how you show up, the behaviors that you exhibit while you're coming to work and you're coming up with those new ideas. The doing is the action of coming up with those ideas. And carrying out innovation takes both of those parts, the being and the doing. To create that environment, you need to build your innovation capabilities. You also need to create the conditions for innovation to happen within your company. It takes purpose, connected to strategy, so that your innovation is aligned with strategic goals. Otherwise, it won't have legs to move on. I think of it in the being of innovation as the intangible parts, the parts that can't be changed very quickly. They're crucial to the long-term success of your innovation program. But we're talking about adapting corporate culture to embrace innovation and identifying internal and external environments that help or hurt your innovation. In the doing side, the doing is more tangible. These are the things that can be completed quickly, but they alone won't sustain innovation. This is how you design the function, the structure, and the processes behind your innovation program. It also speaks to the governance to own the program and make sure that it's meeting its measures. And what ties it all together is language. It's really the language, the definition of innovation, the rationale that you have for reaching your objectives. That's the glue that binds these together. It's the foundation on which the program, the innovation program, rests. But none of these domains themselves can work alone. They've all got to be connected together. And so we train each other to be proficient in everyday innovation. A simple three-step process to get yourself unstuck. When you find yourself in a problem, it's simple. You define the problem, stretch the thinking, and then select the best idea. It's a mini process, if you will. It works. It's not detailed enough to put into a corporate structure, but it's the basic template for solving problems. And now, speaking of innovation as a corporate function, it requires a bit more robust of a process. And we spent years building it out, putting in a front-end innovation part to our product development process so that we could walk through the parts of understanding our customer and take the opportunities that appear in a way that we can prioritize them so that we can put our scarce resources on what really matters. Our original process was built on a stage gate waterfall method. Stage gate worked well for a while. It's intended to mitigate risks along the development path, but it's come under fire for being rigid or less flexible than the new agile processes that were coming out. So we started introducing agile methodologies into our front end so that we could start maneuvering and being more nimble to capture and address opportunities that we were finding. We developed an effective innovation program that was geared towards producing repeatable results. The innovation program is really the capabilities, the focus, the methods that you use, the way that you engage your audience and associates, the portfolio that you're driving after, and how you execute. And so it's our roles as innovation leaders to really drive that culture and drive that environment, to build that framework that encourages sustainable innovation. And the changes,
Paul?
Yes.
Sorry, I thought you were done with the sentence. There's a question I've been asking myself for some time, but you've been talking so eloquently that I didn't think you might not need slides. We're still looking at the Innovation Management Office slide, right? Is that what you want us to look at?
Yeah, I'm just talking through
good.
Our build-up for the how we evolved our program here. So the program came first. Was there a specific question in there, John?
A lot of people thought that you might be talking because we hear you click sometimes. So we actually thought that you might think we were moving the slides on the screen also, as you are moving apparently through your system. But this is cool, excellent. So very clear for now.
All right.
Go for it.
And if you got any questions, just feel free. John will stop me again if need be. But that's great.
So far so good.
So I'm talking to you because you're here because you're interested in innovation. Right? Believe it or not, other people are oblivious to it. And I remember when I was wide-eyed, walking around a PDMA conference, asking questions, taking notes, and sponging it all in. I was fascinated that there was this seemingly mysterious term, innovation. You know, and it changed my mind that day when I learned that it could be a verb, not just a noun. Innovation demands action. But action without intention puts your resources at risk. All the intention in the world doesn't get you anywhere without having a means to accomplish it. And so for an innovation program to be sustainable and inclusive, it really depends on that ecosystem of customers, partners, and associates to be interacting and engaged on the platform. Together, it needs to be targeted to focus innovation on the areas where the business sees the most impact. It needs to be transparent to give the contributors a sense of where the priorities lie, and to make it accessible so that submitters can come back to check on their ideas to see where they lay. And finally, it requires it to be connected across locations so that plant engineers or sales associates can weigh in on some important decisions or spark a new idea. They can share their insights, experience, opinions, and help each other answer questions better, faster, and with higher confidence when we're going through the gate system. Our innovation platform enables our effective innovation discipline at scale. It's the platform, the what's and the whys of the platform to collect, develop, and assess ideas, to help prioritize them and act on them. And we've implemented Planbox as our platform, and we've been using that to help our associates through global collaboration, incredible ease of use of the platform. Our teams are then energized and working together towards common goals.
Well, are you going to go now and explain a bit on how has Planbox really made you go beyond just from stage gate, waterfall to agile? Are you going to go and talk about that now as you show the next slide? Because otherwise, I would like to ask the question. So
Planbox has helped us add a little bit of that agile mentality into our work because it helps us scale. We started our innovation program. It takes a robust innovation program to be able to adjust to the day-to-days and take on different types of projects. That, in effect, is our process that we've followed. And we had that in place for years before we enhanced it with the reach that the platform gives us. So I'll get into it about how we use the platform specifically in the challenge, and you'll see what some of the capabilities of the platform have so that it takes your standard innovation process and helps build it out into something that can reach the world and helps take care of some of the busy work on the back end. So now we're looking at a typical challenge workflow here. This is it's kind of a generic template, if you would, of phased series of assessments that are increasing in scrutiny on ideas that are coming in. So the process consists of an initial triage, where the ideas are entered and sorted for clarity and fit. Viable ideas then undergo technical review and are prioritized, rated, and bucketed into groups of ideas. The feasible ideas get passed on for subject matter expert review, like regulatory and legal, were very important in the COVID times here. And the ideas then are just packaged and put together in themes so that they can be implemented by champions. So here, John, the question is, what's the difference between doing that without a platform or doing it with an innovation platform? It's the platform capabilities that really minimize the legwork and let our innovators focus on what they do best, coming up with and implementing solutions. The platform has some features that allow you to customize the idea intake form So you're asking for specific information rather than just a blank open text field. We do that so that we can improve the quality of the ideas that are coming in. Just ask a little extra information so that it puts the onus of putting that information out there on the submitter. It helps the reviewers review those ideas faster. And that's what this challenge took. The platform itself relies, you can build out heavy automation within there. And what that helps to do is, as this ideas are being collected and reviewed, the status can change automatically based on those reviews. Notifications can be sent back to the submitter or the reviewers as it's moving through the process. And so that helps people feel included and lets people have awareness to where their ideas sit. It can assign champions and push them to the right people so that the right people are looking at the ideas at the right times. And that all happens in the background. You know, the evaluations can be done online, and one of our favorite things is asynchronously. We've got a global workforce that's distributed, and so having a platform that's open 24/7 means that John in Brussels could review ideas 8 hours ahead of me, and when I get to work, I could review some of those ideas as well. And all those ratings are being captured in the system. We're not meeting over, we're not sending emails to each other. The evaluations are done online and asynchronously. And to understand what those ratings are, the platform has reporting capabilities. You can generate reports to check on the health of the challenge, to see what ideas are being captured, and pass those around to stakeholders as well.
So, Paul, can I ask a question on this? I mean, this is the area where I think you've touched it, several times, and Arthur did it as well before. My experience is that the innovators and processes and systems don't go together very well usually. Right? Because innovators lead me to innovate, and so as soon as they see a process or system, they feel suffocated. You mentioned as well. You said the friction of freedom and process and system. So how has the Planbox approach helped you to break through that friction? What would you say have been the 1, 2, or 3 most important elements of that?
I think the main element is that it gives people that visibility and makes them feel part of the process. So that's where it actually kind of overlaps for your question there. The process is accepted when people feel that they can contribute to it and that they can be a part of it. And that's the feedback I've gotten with Planbox, and the way we've used it is that it really helps people who typically don't get involved in some of the innovation activities that we have. They all of a sudden, through announcements or having that accessibility to the platform, can jump on and see what is being asked for. They can see what other people are contributing. And so I'll get into it with the ecosystem. We're developing that culture and ecosystem so that people are comfortable getting online or being part of the process. I call it building our digital innovation muscles. We're learning to flex our muscles because I've seen it. The online is a huge step. To get people to put their ideas on a platform is, well, it's tricky. If the engineer or the ideator is typically familiar with sitting across a table and brainstorming with Post-it notes and things like that, just having that face-to-face interaction, if that's what they're comfortable with, we have to take a more personal approach and get them to be comfortable online. Sometimes it doesn't work, but sometimes it does. I've hosted meetings with a team where we sit across the table and virtually we have the physical discussion that could be happening online. And as I show them how they can add those comments that they just made into the comment section on the ideas, they can start that discussion now with a broader reach than just sitting across the table with someone, but they can pull a marketer from another country into a conversation to weigh in on the validity of an idea that they've come up with. And likewise, that marketer, having no idea what material some idea could be made out of, has that connection back to the engineers and the operatives in the plants so that they can help figure out if this is a real idea or not.
Excellent. Well, that brings it to life. Thank you for those examples. It feels like the process is doing a good job in maybe democratizing, I guess is the word.
Yeah, that's a great word for it.
The process of innovation and through visibility to making people, feel part of the innovation that drives engagement, which we all know is a huge opportunity, right? I mean, Gallup survey continues to show that across the world, 15-16% of people are engaged in typical organizations. In the US, it's a bit higher, but there's a huge opportunity. And also, I see where you're going now with not only can you do that within your own organization, but you can actually extend it to your ecosystem, right? You said you were going to talk a bit about that, eventually as well. So I just wanted to go and bring things together. I think we're onto something here interesting.
Yeah, that's a great point. I won't touch on it about the ecosystem, but as a healthcare company, we interact with nurses and healthcare providers, things like that. We create groups, and we've actually been able to build out their own private communities within our version of Planbox. We call it Insights to Innovation, or I to I. And within that platform, we can build private communities that the nurses and select associates from Hollister can enter and have those candid discussions for the 2 years that the nurses are partnered with us. And so it is democratizing innovation. It's bringing it to the masses so that everybody can be a part. Whether you have that idea right now or it comes later on, at least you have the framework to be set up and get that idea out there where it can be realized. And so just to finish up here on this challenge workflow, a typical challenge workflow, but it is the one that we used, it's the model that we used for running the challenge in response to COVID-19. It was a bleak situation, but we were given the opportunity to really kickstart an effort here. And by the time the dust settled and the outcomes were in, it was fast, fun, and fruitful. We had a 5-day submission period. The ecosystem was in place to move on ideas. The associates were working from home, so they didn't have a different way to engage with people, so they felt included and delighted to be a part of something that could really help the world, and fruitful. Our participation metrics, the innovation metrics, were through the roof on this. The amount of excitement and enthusiasm was amazing to see because there was such a push from the outside world as well. So it was really the years of building our infrastructure and the little baby steps of getting people comfortable to innovate at all, to innovate on purpose, and to innovate online. This was really the most recent culmination of all of our efforts to date. And so the next slide shows how we framed up the problem for our associates to ensure that we had improved quality on the upfront ideas. This is a very high level overarching view on the COVID-19 challenge that we ran. But it had been resulting in such significant changes everywhere in society. The spread of the virus was coming closer and closer. It strains healthcare systems and staff, and a lot of medical supplies were running out. Companies from all over were called on, especially medical devices companies. Regulators were clearing paths to make it easier for companies to get solutions out there to the world, clearing the red tape that typically would be in its way. And in times, especially as demand is increasing for our own products, we asked ourselves, what can we do quickly to aid the outside world without disrupting or causing resource constraints to our own supply chain? We posed that question to our associates. We targeted this group to around 300 technical folks because we were asking them to consider how the health pandemics changed their perception, their perspective on the company, how we might be creative and apply our current materials or repurpose some of our current products to create personal protective equipment, or how we might utilize our experience and competences to help somebody else overcome some of their challenges. We asked our innovators, how can we collaborate with local businesses? Do you know of any local businesses? Who are they? To help find solutions. How can we help? But we know from our experience that you can't just lay it out there without any criteria or considerations, because the amount of information that you get back, the ideas, the amount of work that goes into fixing them up and really driving the value out of them is faster realized if you ask and put criteria up front. So we're clear with our intentions. Not every idea was going to get implemented. Only the best ideas would. And the best ideas would be the ones that could be successfully executed quickly without disruption to our current supplies. So the quickest ideas to implement we found were basically based on donating raw materials or work in progress pieces of products, where we could send components to another company, thus reducing our own regulatory burden while still being able to help the world. Let me show you what I mean about the real world successes. We implemented this challenge that I just talked about, and we were able to deliver. Now, the challenge owner and the team were able to respond immediately to the call from leadership when it came down to start up this challenge. We were already thinking about it, and so the momentum behind the leadership was really impressive, so that we could get this up and running, have that confidence that we were working on something important. So we opened it up for a 5-day submission period and generated a bunch of winning solutions. The best parts about it were that we could score, sort, and store the ideas. And this is again where that system of record, that platform capabilities come into play. We could score the ideas. We talked about it as it's coming in. They're getting triaged and reviewed by experts, and they're actually scoring the ideas along the way so that the automation in the background can move the ideas onto the next part as they're passing through. The categories help you find the ideas again. And so the second box there, sorting the ideas, was a huge benefit, because at some point after the challenge was open, the call for personal protective equipment for masks became a high priority. So dozens of mask-related ideas were quickly filtered for and prioritized based on the ratings that had already happened. And we were able to deliver a list of prioritized opportunities that were mask-related, that could be done in a quick manner, to the person who was in charge of mask-related efforts at Hollister. And you can see that in that insert there. The insert shows us how we partnered with a local design firm. They were 3D printing masks. That's that white part in the lower left. The 3D printed masks, or thermoformed masks, were just the framework for the mask, but they didn't have a fabric component to create the filter. Our products have fabric components to it, non-woven, and we were able to send them some of our stock material so that they could integrate it into their mask idea. And now those are going through N95 compliance testing. You know, that was just a partnership in the right step. They needed a jump to fight against COVID, and we were able to identify what they needed and supply them so that they could realize their dreams. That second picture shows another instance in Ireland where there was a design contest to see what ideas could come out. And we were able to use this platform to identify ways to now use a film material from another product so that we could create protective drapes in the hospital while people are being intubated to protect the healthcare providers. This is there.
Well, as
Yes.
you take your sip, that gives me a window of question. The score thing intrigues me, and so does it to Linda van Roosmalen, who says, what were your scoring criteria? Let me ask that question first.
That's
How
great.
did you select?
Yeah. So the scoring criteria, right? Nobody saw COVID coming, and it hit us so fast. It was really, you had to have stuff in place, otherwise you wouldn't be able to react quick enough. So the scoring criteria, just based on our experience, we went with a down and dirty cut. So really the three key metrics that we had were impact, effort, and timing. You know, and we rated them on a 1 to 5 scale. So 5 being the highest, 1 being the lowest. We had anchors on there to help people calibrate, but then to prioritize them, a simple multiplication of those numbers gives you a factor, right? The highest numbers, would be 5 times 5 times 5, right? So 125 would be the highest number. You could also add them together. Some way to use a rough cut metric so that you could create an opportunity score. And then we'd sort those ideas based on that opportunity score. And at this time, when you're moving this fast, not every idea was vetted. Not every idea was, proven to be a real idea. This is what was about to happen. So that rough cut prioritization list really helps give you a starting point. You start at the top.
It feels relevant. You said effort, impact,
and timing, effort, impact, and timing, because we were looking for things that would not require too much effort, things that would be very quick, and things that would have the biggest impact.
Yeah, you mentioned speed before, obviously, as well, which is really relevant in this situation that we're living in today, right? And then Audrey Hursanov asks the question: were the experts internal or external, or both?
These were internal. This was really just an internal effort to get the initial list, right? For the 5 days that we ran this collection period, which of course now it's since been extended to give us a place to capture more ideas. They keep coming in. The pandemic's still around. Who knows if we'll see another spike? We don't know what's going to happen here. But that last box is where we get to store our ideas. We still have a repository of ideas so that we can dip from the well as we go back to there for longer term or medium term ideas as this pandemic evolves.
You are creating a learning organization right there, right? Some ideas you pull forward and execute with focus on speed, and then other ideas may be taking a bit longer for second priority, but still with a huge impact. I wanted to go back to the score one for one more second, because my question is, what's the role of leadership in all this? I'm intrigued and maybe even impressed by the fact that you let experts rule decision making here. Because in my previous experience, you will go and present your ideas to the management. The management picks, okay, I like this better, I like that better, of course, with based on data. But I don't see any leadership involvement in this decision making, or was there?
It was an interesting situation that we were thrust into with COVID. The leadership provided unwavering support. It was really quite amazing to see, because of such external pressures, the global pandemic affecting the world, the sense of urgency was really there. And so the leaders were in it just enough to show support and be ready. They're part of the ecosystem on the implementation end. The collecting ideas, the rating ideas, if they're technically feasible, if they pass regulatory or legal hurdles. Those types of ratings we were just let loose with, and the experts in those fields were able to weigh in with what they do best. The leadership stood by, and when we had those lists of ideas, like the 27 mask-related ideas that we handed them, the leadership stood by without questioning that list. They found out what's the right way to implement these ideas. Not all 27 get implemented, but part of our package to the leadership is not to give them one idea, right? Not to say, here, you're in charge of this one idea, because they may or may not understand it or feel for it or want it. But we were able to bucket the ideas, and so mask-related ideas. We ended up having a mask champion in the company, and so we could pass that on. And then you have opportunities to develop, to look at, to spark new ideas. And so I think leadership was a extremely supportive role in this. Not so much the decision makers, but more on the driving and to help implement the ideas, which really drives it home, which really just puts the bow on this challenge that we ran here with the success. In that 5 days, we received and evaluated over 85 ideas with a participation rate of 30%. which is pretty high compared to, you ask a bunch of people to participate in a challenge, 30% was pretty good. The rate of ideas that we collected per day, and this goes to speak with just the sense of urgency that was in the world at the time, was 6 times the number of ideas that we have ever gotten before per day. So it was really a lot of activity to watch on the back end. And in my role, I was helping to keep people calm, the reviewers and the people on the back end, so that we could make sure that we were having it organized and able to get to the results that we were driving. And that's what allowed us to implement the ideas. When we packaged them up and delivered them to the stakeholders who could make it happen, that's when we were able to really transform those creative ideas into winning solutions. And to date, I have a couple of pluses after that 5 there, because it just keeps going up. It's evolving on its own. Some of the experts have taken on local efforts, partnerships have formed. So at least 5 ideas were implemented within just the first few weeks after this challenge, and more have been to date. And I think this is my last slide, but it goes to show just a testament to the story, the evolution of innovation at Hollister since 1921, when it started as a craft printing company, to where we are today, almost 100 years later, able to utilize the technologies that are available in a different way so that we can tap into that broad set of innovators around the world and really drive results. So through the program that we developed and the integration of platforms such as Planbox, we're really able to collect, be inclusive, and make people feel a part of our innovation process. So that's where I'll leave it.
Oh, sorry, Paul. You can also the other benefit that strikes me here suddenly, and it should be obvious maybe, or it should have been obvious from the start, but you can do all this. You can do all this virtually, right? I mean, you don't even need to be at the same place.
Absolutely,
so that gives you incredible flexibility, agility, and speed in this time where everybody needs to work from home.
I would say that was one of the key features here too. I mean, it gives people something to do at home while they're here adjusting to their new paradigm. And, all of those things come together to create, unfortunately, it takes this awful event, but it really does have a silver lining in the fact that it's jump-starting these new communication methods and allowing us to see how we can communicate in a virtual environment rather than just relying on the face-to-face. Thanks.
So do you see this to continue, this new world that you've started to live? As we emerge from the crisis and we get back to what I hope is going to be a nice normal again, but we'll see.
I definitely don't see it. We don't go back to the same normal. I mean, I've got my kids here, they're the last day of school, but camps are canceled for the summer. They're talking about e-learning in the fall, just starting up with e-learning. And whether it's 100% like it's been for the past couple of months, or just supplemented into the weekly work, I'm hoping that there's some things that come out of here that people realize, oh, we don't have to have a face-to-face meeting on this. This is perfectly doable and, asynchronously on my own. And there might be some work like that develops into a hybrid model where we stay comfortable with the virtual work while we may go into the office. If a pandemic or any reason comes again for sheltering in place, it's not such an upset to our process. It just becomes that period again. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it integrates and develops.
Yeah. Okay. So take out some of the best elements of what we have learned and implement them in the way that we used to work, so that we obviously get better in an integrated fashion. Hey, I want to go and get back to the decision making, which my question triggered some other questions. Ayman Abikaram is asking the question. So the ideas were not evaluated head-to-head and voted upon by decision makers, at all. It was really like, okay, here's the top score. This feels right, and so let us, tell us what you need, and we will support you in innovating, as a verb, as you mentioned earlier.
Right. I think let me read. I didn't quite catch the question in there, but if the question was around that,
Was there no leadership involvement or decision making? Okay, guys, here's the top 5 ideas. I like this best. I think we should do this, even though it was not maybe the highest score. Were those conversations happening, or no?
Yeah, they were. There was a lot of collaboration going on. The list, like I said, the prioritization list just gives you a starting point. That's how we view all of our prioritizations. You know, sometimes the best idea, but misunderstood idea, ends up at the bottom of that list. So it's good to have eyes on the whole list. But when it's a time crunch and you want to start with the ones that seem like the highest opportunity, I mean, how else are you gonna, without spending too much time, the opportunity score gives you a good ballpark, right? It striates the ideas. If you have 50 ideas, it helps you pick a starting point. And if none of those seem very good, you know, then you get to look at some of the other ideas and hope there's diamond in the rough there. But it you know, it gives you a starting point. That's the important part when speed is important.
I always say that's where knowledge meets experience, and so that leads to the best decisions. So thank you for the clarification. Rita Shore asked, Rita, thanks for joining us again. My partner in crime on the Innovation Digital Transformation Institute for the Conference Board. Did you miss in the Delphi effect on ranking or decision making? We change our minds as we hear from others and why they make that decision. Were you able to isolate that, or did you take it into account even?
I don't think we took that into account too much. It was really about getting things visible. I mean, we're talking about, you know, all in all, 100 ideas is not the same as 10,000 ideas. So brute force, you could go through each idea. The situation as it was just moving so fast. I mean, just within 3 weeks, we developed the challenge, posted the challenge, executed the challenge, and implemented ideas within 3 weeks. And I just don't believe that could have been done without some kind of leap of faith and just understanding that, you know, there's no time for overthinking now. It's people doing what they do best, and it was tapping into their innate rivers of thinking that they've been developing over years. And with, you know, not having unlimited ideas, there was eyes on it, so that you could see that you're not too far out of the guideposts. You could manage it somewhat. So it was definitely collaborative across different levels in the organization, working together. I mean, just a testament to the way we work together. It's beautiful.
Thank you, Paul. I mean, you mentioned earlier on, this is all about being fast, fun, and fruitful. I jotted that down. I find that to be very aspirational in terms of how we should be working. As Linda said again here, you know, it's a culture where leadership then supports that effort, make sure that everybody feels that you're doing things fast, in fun, and for being fruitful. So this is great. I think you really brought the story to life. Thank you for joining us. Arthur, do you have any closing comment of 30 seconds? Arthur.
Yes, absolutely. I think that you can see the ability to collaborate and the value that it can provide an organization by bringing in the right stakeholders. So that's the value that Paul was able to achieve with his team and his organization, really focusing around a very specific problem and how they can develop the best solutions. That's something that the true innovators within these organizations are trying to accomplish and achieve. So at the end of the day, it's all about focusing on that end goal and being able to deliver the right results by going through a defined process. And that process is really meant to help just bring the right voices in. It's not so much to help or diminish and stifle the innovation, it's to help develop it further. So that's something that we're working with our customers to help them achieve here.
Thank you, Arthur. That's a great summary. That's brilliant. And then Paul, again, thanks for bringing the story to life. And thank you both for just being so engaging. I learned something. I hope the audience did. I want to really thank you for your contribution and your inspiration. And the Conference Board is all about actionable insights. And I'm sure there were a few of those handles which people can go and consider. and I love the fast, fun, and fruitful thing, which I'll take with me in my courses and my classes. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks again, Arthur and Paul, for making this such an engaging session. And Derek, you wanted to go and quickly show the poll, right? Not the poll, the survey, in terms of getting 30 seconds feedback from you. Are you going to put it up? Can they click there? Does it work? Let me see here. Does it take us anywhere? Online survey. Yeah, so click where you saw the click, and that should take you into the online. This is the first time we're doing this. Maybe not. Maybe not. Oh, here it is. Yeah, the poll's not popping up. Thank you. Great. Thanks. Thanks for your votes, folks. Appreciate the honesty and the constructiveness. And I hope to see you again at the next opportunity. Have a great rest of the day, evening, morning, as is appropriate for you. The webcast is closed.